Let's review one of Dostoevsky's greatest love stories of all time, White Nights. Just kidding, White Nights is not a love story, so let's review it. The story takes place in St. Petersburg, Russia, and we're introduced to the protagonist who we don't really know the name or age of. We see him walking along the St. Petersburg Canal until he encounters a young woman that's crying in distress, which later on we learn that her name is Nastinka and she's a 17-year-old girl. They start talking over the course of 3 nights and they start sharing stories about their lives with each other. So for the characters, a lot of people characterize the main protagonist as a dreamer, and while I think that might be true, I just think both of them are actually dreamers but driven by different things. So we have the main protagonist who is a social recluse because he's a dreamer. So essentially this guy looks through life with rose-tinted glasses, he is overly idealistic and he romanticizes everything. And because of that, he finds it really hard to maintain friendships because of his overly idealistic nature. So he just kind of isolates himself in his own home, thinking about these thoughts instead of turning them to action. Contrasting his character with Nastinka, Nastinka is still a social recluse, but she's more of a social recluse due to her grandmother. We learn through Nastinka's monologue that she lives with her grandmother who is blind, and we learn that Nastinka's household is very strict and congested because her grandmother actually forces her to pin her dress to Nastinka's dress in case she tries to go out or do anything. Essentially, Nastinka is forced to be by her grandmother's side at all times, also adding a layer of her youth and naiveness on top of that because she's still a 7-year-old girl that hasn't really experienced life that much, and how could she experience life if she's physically tied to her grandmother at all times? So kind of knowing all that in its full context, you can see how this kind of translates into their actions, because with the main character we can see that he's very over dramatic from the get-go and he uses a lot of flowery and romantic language to describe Nastinka. Contrasting that with Nastinka's actions when she thought that her lover was not coming back for her, she kind of dove into her relationship with the protagonist really quickly. So knowing all of that, why is this not considered a love story? So this is not a love story because I don't think they were actually ever really in love with each other. The main character was not actually in love with Nastinka herself, he just wanted to act like he was the knight in shining armor in his own story. Because you have to remember that the main character is a dreamer and he spends all his time thinking about the perfect love story, the perfect worldview, the perfect ideal world. So when we see the main protagonist saving Nastinka on the first night from that weird man that was bothering her, that was essentially the first start in his perfect romantic love story with her. Because in his eyes, how can the beginning of a love story be any more perfect than that? Whereas we have Nastinka, who's more driven by her naiveness and her want for freedom, because when she's being pinned to her grandmother 24/7, it doesn't allow her to meet new people and develop some kind of discernment. The only real way she meets new people is by her grandmother renting the attic to strangers, but because of the fact that she's pinned to her grandmother 24/7, their interactions are limited. So Nastinka just really has this want and need to meet new people and to kind of experience life more. So because of that, we can see that Nastinka romanticizes any interaction she has, romantic or not. And what I think Nastinka is truly searching for is some kind of human connection and interaction. That is my personal review of White Nights by Dostoevsky, but let me know what your opinions are.